What dessert?
You can have a Gemara for the fanciness of it, to make it look kosher.
That's too cold.
It's too cold in here?
Come here. It's cold.
There's two
Yourself a
seats.
seat.
Oh yeah, there's a chair here.
You don't want these stones?
Anyways, ready?
Rolling.
sure, yeah.
Okay, so Ershkins, thanks everyone for coming. The truth is, this subject's a little bit harder than the previous subjects. First of all, it's a little bit harder because the Teichen's a little bit harder, but it's also because people are on different levels. I'm going to be discussing a little bit first on today's topic is the Derech and Limud Ragatchover Gaon. We're going to be discussing a little bit about the Ragatchover, and then we're going to be discussing how he understood Torah. He had a very unique method, and his method became very famous because the Rebbe in the Sichos very often uses the Ragatchover Gaon. So in order to understand many of the Sichos, as you're going to be going on, you're going to be learning different Sichos. You're going to be learning, the Rebbe is going to bring the Ragatchover very often. I think this year, the short introduction to the Ragatchover will help a lot of Bachrim as they start learning harder Nigla Sichos, right? So I know some of you are already finished learning easier Sichos and learning harder. Some of you are already learning easier, but whatever it is, I'll go talk a little bit about it. The Ragatchover was a very, very interesting person. One of the things that makes him very unique from all the other Rabbanim was his incredible genius. You look at pictures of him, he looks like Einstein. He has like his hair and whatever, his entire look looks like a genius that, and he was incredibly sharp. He was especially incredibly sharp to Rabbanim, to rabbis. Any rabbi that said something stupid,
I really was thinking
he was really not nice to. There was one time a rabbi that came over to him, and they spoke for a while, and the rabbi said, I heard you're always so criticizing to important rabbis, yet you're so nice to me. So he said, yeah, because you're not really a rabbi. So by that he was, and then many other stories. Okay,
he would roast people. Yeah,
he would roast people, and it's because, and there were many other stories about how the Ragatchover was incredibly sharp. And it wasn't only that he was incredibly sharp, but his entire life was Torah. His entire life he saw through the prism of Torah. One time he got a letter from the government, and it said he had to pay two different types of taxes. So usually a rabbi says he has to pay two different types of taxes. He says, okay, I'll have to pay it. He looks at it and he says, one tax, according to Torah, I'm mechuyev to pay. And one tax, according to Torah, I'm pater from paying. So one I'm going to pay, and the other one I'm not. And that's what actually happened. The government later sent a letter and said that the tax that he was mechuyev to pay al pi Torah, he needed to pay, but it was a mistake, and the other tax he didn't have to pay. The Rebbe says the story over to show how Torah governs the metzius of the world, how Torah runs the existence of the world. And by the Ragatchover, this was something that didn't work out pi Torah. Therefore, the actual existence of the world changed to conform with what the Torah's true existence was. So he was an incredible sharp man, and a man who saw everything through the prism of Torah. So he's very famous for giving the Rebbe smicha. He's very famous for many letters to the Rebbe.
but he was Chabad, Lubavitch?
He was Chabad Kippus, yes, correct.
Not Lubavitch.
Yeah, he was not Lubavitch, but he had a connection to the Rebbe Rashab as well. When he was Chabad Kippus, yeah. So he had the many letters that he wrote together with the Rebbe. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about the Shitta learning and what makes it unique from all other Sfarim. Wherever we learn Gemara, really Gemara compromises thousands of pieces of information, right? So I learn, anyone who learns Rambam, especially Rambam, there's 14 books. Each book, there's information starts in the beginning, and then it just goes on and on and on, and there's pieces of information, and more information, and more information, and more information, and it doesn't really seem like there's any connection between the information. Meaning to say, discussions of woman and Kedushin is one topic, and discussions of Nizikin is another topic. Each one is just thousands of pieces of information, and it's very heavy. The Ragatchover connects many different things together and puts them together in an incredibly astonishing way. And through this, he answers so many different types of questions. What the Ragatchover does is that he takes the Gemara and really distills the Gemara into 10 philosophical rules, 10 rules. And through these 10 rules, he explains really thousands of questions throughout the Gemara. So I'll give some examples, okay? So I'll just give a general example of what that's supposed to mean. So let's say we have an argument, right? There's between liberals and conservatives about women's rights. So some say that women have the right to have an abortion, right? They're pro-death. Then there are others that are pro-life, right? So that is an argument. Then they have
pro-choice.
Yeah, then there's another argument. Are you pro-decency or are you pro-immoral marriages? Are you pro-moral marriages or are you pro-immoral marriages? That's another debate, okay? And are you pro-government giving money towards to private educational institutions, or are you pro public schools? Seemingly, all three of these debates have absolutely no connection to each other. But then the second you start explaining that one is an atheist and one is religious, all of a sudden it makes sense. The same one who holds of pro-life is going to be the same one that is anti-immoral marriages, and the same one that is going to be pro-private education in order to continue religious practices. However, the atheistic person is going to be the person who's going to be pro-death, pro-immoral marriages, and obviously pro-public school because they desire for indoctrination of atheistic doctrine. So therefore we could see that by explaining the underlying differences between them, we could take three random different topics and we could explain that they're all dependent one upon the other. And this is exactly what the Ragatchover does. It takes 10 of these rules and explains with his thousands of different machlekasin throughout entirety of Shas. So I will give some examples. Okay, I'll give, I believe, 2 examples today. But there's really actually much more. There's really 10. So the first one I'm going to be discussing is the difference between, it's really the same thing, quantity versus quality, and form versus matter. Okay? So everyone understands that there's a difference between quantity and quality, right? You could have a lot of cheap food. You could have, chashuva quality food. Also, very often you could have form. You could have but it doesn't only mean quantity and quality. Quantity will very often be referring to the actual physical thing, and quality will be referring to what it actually presents, okay? In other words, in an object itself, you could have the quantity or the quality, or in other words, we call it matter and form. So I'll give you an example. You have this table, okay? So the quantity or the matter will be the wood of this table, but the quality is its shape and what makes it a table, okay? So the quantity is just wood, but put together in a certain way, it doesn't only become wood, it now has a new qualitative name called a table. And really, you could say this about many things in life, right? They have its physical matter, but then they take the certain form that it takes, which gives it a more spiritual name. But I don't mean spiritual in terms of holy. I mean spiritual in terms of it's not as tangible, right? There's the table isn't its tangible reality, it's intangible reality. It's something that all of us realize, but it's not necessarily I can touch it.
Concept.
And it's a concept, exactly. In everything there's the physicality of it and there's the concept of it. So the Ragatchover explains, so for a very interesting machlekes. So there's a machlekes between Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon in regards to chametz. One shittas Reb Yehuda holds ein bir chametz el sreifa. The only way to dispose of chametz is only through burning chametz, right? He holds that's the only way to deal with chametz. Masha ein kain, I believe it was shittas chachamim, or is it, I forgot exactly what shitta. The shittas chachamim holds that you could destroy it hashbasasa b'chol davar. You could destroy it however you want. So, was Reb Shimon? Right, you're right. Okay, so Reb Shimon. He says you could destroy it however you want. He says you could turn it into many different crumbs and throw it into the sea, or you could throw it into many crumbs and throw it into the air. The shittas of Reb Shimon is that it doesn't make a difference how you destroy it as long as it's destroyed. Okay, that's one machlekes. Another machlekes is in regards to, I think we were discussing earlier a little bit about Mashiach. So we still have to discuss a little bit about jobs. Mashiach comes, but there's another machlekes in regards to wild animals. What will happen to wild animals lost love? So one opinion holds that the animals will cease to exist. There won't be any wild animals lost love. So there'll be no wolves, there'll be no tigers, there'll be no lions. And others say they will exist, but the lions will be tame, right? The wolf will lie with the lamb, and they bring that as a proof from the passage. The wolf will lie with the lamb, that the wolf will be, that all these animals will be tamed. So the Ragatchover says that there are in fact these two arguments, one about chametz and the other one about wild animals to the world to come, are in fact the very same argument. The difference between form and matter. Why?
What's the argument of the law?
Whether or not lost between the wild animals.
Yeah.
Whether or not the wild animals will cease to exist,
or whether
they'll just stop being wild animals.
Ah.
I told one about.
Wait, that's a machloket in the Gemara?
Yes, it's a machlekes in the Gemara. Yeah.
By who?
I forgot their names right now. I believe it was Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine.
Okay. Fine.
It was Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon.
So. Same thing.
So he says they're the same thing. Why? Because Reb Yehuda holds that ein bir chametz al seif. Reb Yehuda holds the only way to destroy chametz is by burning. Why? Because he holds it's not enough to destroy its form, but you must also destroy its matter. So to him, in order to destroy chametz, it's not enough for the bread to stop being bread, but rather the essence of the molecular structure of the bread must change until the molecular structure ceases to exist. Therefore, he holds that until the bread becomes ashes, until it becomes a new entity, that is the only way to be tashbis, that is the only way to destroy chametz. Mash enkin shittas chachamim. Shittas chachamim holds you don't have to destroy the quantity of the bread. All you have to do is destroy the quality of the bread. You have to destroy it from becoming bread. Therefore, if I put together into tiny little pieces the breadcrumbs and I spread them across the sea, it's not bread anymore. It's certainly not bread, right? I can't eat it as bread. It doesn't have the qualitative aspects of bread. It's not bread anymore. It's still physically alive, right? It's still the molecular structure of bread still exists. But according to the Chachamim, what does it mean to destroy chametz? What does it mean to destroy bread? It means to destroy the qualitative aspects of bread. So too over here when it comes to the animals. Why? Because according to the shitta that holds that the chaya rois need to be completely destroyed. They hold like the Shittas Rabbi Yehuda Ein Bir Chametz El Yisreifa. They hold, what does it mean that it says Vashpoisi Chai Ra Min Haaretz? When it says the same word Tashbisu, it means that it should be completely destroyed, wild animals. It means that the wild animals themselves will be destroyed. Masha Enkin, the Shittas Chachamim holds that you don't need to destroy the actual animal. As long as you destroy their form, as long as you destroy their form of wild animal, meaning to say they stop in essence becoming a wild animal, that's considered the wild animal becoming destroyed because it's not a wild animal anymore. The wolf isn't considered a wild animal if it's not killing people, if it's not hurting other animals. So here the Ragatchover takes two machlokes, one in regards to chametz, and the truth is there's many others. I'm just putting this as an example. One in regards to chametz and one in regards to wild animals, and says how they're actually truly connected with each other. I'll give a second example, okay? And this will be the difference between the community, and there's dozens of examples really on each case. This actually the case of the community individual. There's really, the Ragatchover knocks down 7 to 8 different examples. I'm only going to give two to three examples here. And that is the difference, the conflict between the community and the individual, right? We always have this conflict between the needs of the many and the needs of the individual. In other words, the question's like this. Is it that, what's a society? Is a society just many individuals put together, or is it something much greater than or is the society much greater than the sum of its parts, and it becomes something much greater and much better? And now that it's much greater and much better, it is much more powerful and completely beyond each individual. Okay? So for an example, the concept of, we see this in a bad way, let's say, in communism, right? So communism said that in order for communism, right, communism became an entity that, although formed by many individuals, essentially became something that was higher than all the individuals until they were willing to sacrifice all the individuals for that thing. And the truth is, it's so too by the nation, right? Very often you could argue, is it that a nation is composed of many individuals, or is there something much greater, the concept of the nation itself, which is much greater than individuals as individuals? The Ragatchover calls it, is it a shutvis? Is a community a partnership, meaning it's partnered with many people together? Or is it a tzibur? Or is it a community much greater than its parts? Yeah?
Yeah, you said that, I know you used an example that communism became greater than itself.
Well, that's how they considered communism.
What do you mean it became?
They meant to say that the concept of communism became so sacred that it was able to nullify even the individual needs of the people.
Yeah. First it was for the needs of the community, but then it was like...
Well, the communists, they argued that it's okay if I starve a little bit because we're bringing communism to the world, which eventually is going to make everything okay.
Because the nation of communism, the nation of the... Right, exactly, because the nation of... Right, in other words, it's for the nation. It's for something which is much greater than them.
There's an idea in Jewish law too, right?
So, exactly. So both of the truth is both of these concepts are found in Jewish law. Not that we're able to starve people for the individual, but the concept of a tzibur, the concept of a community being either a shutvis, a group of a bunch of individuals coming together as partners, a partnership.
And getting up your money to release people from prison or whatever.
Or the concept of the Jewish community as a whole, that concept exists, and that is really machlokes in regards, we have it a couple of places in regards to zimun, okay?
Zimun is what?
Zimun is when three people eat together.
Oh,
they make a zimun. So when we all know by three people we make nevarach shachanu meshalai, and by 10 people, you make Nevarcha Lekenu. Okay, but what happens if there's more than 10 people? What happens if there's 100 people?
The Rambam talks about it.
Very good, yeah. So what happens if there's 100 people? What happens if there's 1,000 people? What happens if there's 10,000 people? So that's really a machlekes.
The Rambam says
Right. So the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili says that it depends on how many people. So 100 people will have a special, much more special blessing, and 1,000 people will even have even more impressive blessing, and 10,000 people will even have a more impressive blessing. Just like you switched from 3 people to 10, right? Just from 3 to 10 went from Shachanu to Lekenu. So too, each one has a more progressive bracha. But Rebbe Kiva says that after 10. That you just stop at Lekenu. What is the difference between them? The difference is whether or not you look at it as a shutvis or you look at it as a tzibur. According to Rabbi Yossi Haglili, a tzibur is just a collection of individuals. Therefore, 10 individuals is a great amount. 100 individuals is even greater. 1,000 individuals put together is even greater, and 10,000 is even greater. Mash Enkin Rebbe Kiva looks at it as a tzibur. Rebbe Kiva looks at it as a group. Once you have reached the status of group, the fact that you have more individuals makes it a bigger group, but it is nevertheless still the same group. It didn't essentially change. There was no essential difference. Once you went from individuals to group, there's no essential difference. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, there's a big difference between 10 and 100 because the partnership essentially increased 10 times over. But if I hold the concept of a community that's beyond the individuals, and the individuals now don't have so much of significance, then there's not incredible difference between 10 and 100. Both 10, right, which is a group according to Torah, like we see by Minyan, and 100, they're both the same category of a group. Just one's a bigger group and one's a smaller group. Therefore, Rabbi Kiva holds that the bracha doesn't change. So too, we find in a Gemara over here, we learned in Yeshiva and Baba Basra. Okay? If a man goes and says that I am making a vow that I will not have any benefit from the people of a certain town. Okay? Now the halach is someone who was there previously for 12 months is considered a resident of this town. You remember this Gemara, everyone? Mm-hmm. Some people, right?
Yeah.
No, okay? You're considered a resident of this town, and therefore is considered as a resident of this town that you can't get benefit from this person. So now there's a machlekes between, I believe it was the Ran and the Ritva, whether or not a person who, let's say a person moved there after he made the neder and stayed there for 12 months. Is he now usher to get benefit from this person? Okay? And the Ragatchover explains that this argument is dependent on
the one with the community?
On exactly, the one in the community. So
how?
Why? Let's think. If I hold that it is he was, if you hold that community is just a group of individuals, well, which means this, in other words, like this, when he said I don't want to have any pleasure from the community of Crown Heights, did he mean the individuals of Crown Heights put together, or did he mean the community of Crown Heights, how it is greater than its individual parts? So if he meant Crown Heights, he meant to say all the individuals in a partnership of a community of Crown Heights. Again, I don't suggest you say neither. I don't want to have pleasure from the community crowds. I mean, Crown Heights is a great community, but let's say this person, he has some sort of problem, right? But let's say he says this, right? So if he meant the individuals of the community, then now that this person moved to Crown Heights after he made the neder, then he could still enjoy benefit from this person, Because when this person made the neder in the community of Crown Heights, he meant to say on all the individuals inside that community, because a community isn't a system by itself, isn't in existence by itself, but rather contains all the individuals. So when he said, I'm making a neder for all the people of Crown Heights, he meant this family, this family, this family, this family, and this family, and this family didn't move yet into Crown Heights, and therefore that's not included. But, however, if you hold that a community is something beyond the individual families,
Means like a spiritual concept.
and there's a special concept called community, then he also joined this community.
Yeah.
And therefore, even though he joined the community after he made the neder, if he was there in that community for 12 months to become a resident, he also becomes usher. So over here we have two very different halachas, one in regards to nedarim and community residency, and the other one in regards to zimun. And we nevertheless see they are based firmly on the same concept.
Wait, can you explain this part where you said, is it the halacha? What was the question of the halacha? Where you can't profit what from the city?
So a man made a neder. You know what a neder is? A vow. It means say, I vowed to not have pleasure from this community.
From this community,
So now everyone in that community can now not have pleasure from him. Now the question is,
they can't give him stuff. They can't give him like food.
No, he can't. They can't receive pleasure from him. He can't give them bamba. Okay, he can't sponsor for bison to any Crown Heights for bringing.
And they can't accept from him.
They can't accept from him. Correct.
So he said, I'm making a neder that I'm not giving.
Correct. Or the opposite, or they're not taking from me. Exactly.
Okay.
Now let's say a man moves in to this community after he made the neder. Now lives there for 12 months and is considered a resident.
Meaning before he came to the community, he said, when I get to the community, anything they take from me, they can't take from me.
No, someone moved in afterwards. Someone moved in afterwards, okay?
Right.
Someone moved in afterwards. So the question is, this person moved in afterwards, can he receive benefit for the person who made the neder?
Can he accept from him?
Yeah, correct. Can he accept? So now the question is like this. It depends whether or not is the community something greater than the sum of its parts, or it's just a sum of its parts. So if the community is just a sum of its parts, then when he said, I'm making a neder of Crown Heights, right? He meant to say families A to Z. But now that a new family moved in, that was not part of the original neder. But however, if you learn that the concept of a community is something much greater, then once he becomes nullified in the general community and therefore falls under its jurisdiction of that person's neder. Okay, so there are many other examples. The truth is I would want to give, I'll answer a question soon. I would want to give really a share. I want to talk a little bit more, maybe next time, about how just now we discussed the Ragatchover. I would like to talk next time maybe a little bit on how the Rebbe approaches the Ragatchover. This time we're talking more about the Derech of the Ragatchover. Next time I would like to talk a little bit about how the Rebbe's outlook on the Ragatchover. Okay, thank you so much.
Wait.
After.
Can you say any way you can say in the Kitzur what's